My younger brother has always been the golden child, bailed out of every mistake by our wealthy parents. I thought I had finally escaped that toxic dynamic when I bought my dream home. But at my own housewarming party, he made a toast that revealed a horrifying secret. He had forged my signature on a massive loan, and my parents were in on the cover-up. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a personal financial crime investigation that forced me to choose between my family and my future. They thought I would back down. They were wrong. You have to hear how I turned their own secrets into the perfect weapon to deliver justice. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, go ahead and give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks a bunch. The lie that poisoned my life was delivered as a toast. It happened in my own backyard, under a string of twinkling Edison bulbs that my wife, Chloe, and I had spent the whole afternoon hanging. The air in our quiet suburb outside of Denver was crisp and cool, filled with the scent of pine and the happy chatter of our friends. We were celebrating our new house, the first one we'd ever bought. It wasn't a mansion, not by my family's standards, but it was ours. A solid, beautiful craftsman that we had worked and saved for, a tangible symbol of the life I had built for myself. Far from the suffocating orbit of my parents' wealth, and the chaos that always seemed to follow my younger brother. That brother, Ryan, was now standing on our new deck, a champagne flute raised high. He was charisma incarnate, with a movie star smile and an easy confidence that had always made people forgive him for anything. He was recently married, with a baby on the way, and he looked every bit the man who had it all. "To my big brother, Mark," he started, his voice booming with practiced sincerity. The responsible one, the one who always does the right thing." He paused for effect, grinning at me. So responsible, in fact, that he's not just building his own dream, he's funding mine. A ripple of polite laughter went through the crowd. I smiled, assuming it was just another one of his digs about me being the boring, frugal one. But then he continued, "I couldn't have secured the funding for my new startup without him. So let's raise a glass to Mark, the best brother and the best cosigner a guy could ask for." The laughter died. The chirping of the crickets suddenly seemed deafeningly loud. My smile froze on my face. Cosigner? What was he talking about? I looked over at Chloe. The confusion on her face mirrored my own. Her eyes darted from me to Ryan, a question mark hanging in the space between us. Ryan, oblivious, or as I would soon learn, pathologically indifferent to the bomb he just detonated, just kept smiling his $1,000,000 smile. I felt a cold dread seep into my bones. It was the same feeling I used to get as a kid right before he did something reckless, something I knew I would inevitably be blamed for or asked to fix. The party ended in a blur of awkward goodbyes. The moment the last car pulled away, Chloe turned to me, her arms crossed. Her voice was quiet, but it had a steel edge I rarely heard. "Mark, what was he talking about? What loan?" "I have no idea," I said, and the words felt thin and stupid even to my own ears. "I haven't co-signed anything. He must be mistaken, or it's some kind of stupid joke." But it wasn't a joke. He didn't ask how the party was. He just got straight to it, his voice a low, commanding rumble. "Ryan tells me there was some confusion last night. I need you to clear it up. Don't make a scene, Mark. You'll spook his investors." "What is there to clear up?" I shot back, my heart starting to pound. "I didn't co-sign any loan, Dad." There was a heavy sigh on the other end of the line, the sound of a patient man dealing with a difficult child. It was a sound I had heard my entire life. "Mark, don't be dramatic. We all had dinner at the club a few months ago, remember? You, me, Ryan. We discussed his business plan. You signed the preliminary paperwork then. You'd had a few glasses of wine. You probably just forgot." Gaslighting. The word exploded in my mind. He was trying to rewrite my memory to make me doubt my own sanity. I remembered that dinner perfectly. We had talked about his plan, a vague, grandiose idea for a tech company. But there was no paperwork, no signing. I would never ever sign anything of that magnitude after 2 glasses of wine, let alone a $100,000 business loan. I was the responsible one, wasn't I? That was my entire identity in this family. I didn't forget," I said, my voice shaking with a rage that was starting to boil over. "I wasn't drunk, and I didn't sign anything." "Well, the bank seems to think you did," my father said, his tone turning icy. "Your signature is on the documents. Now, this conversation is over. Your mother and I are handling Ryan's first few payments to get him started, so it's no skin off your back. I expect you to call your brother, apologize for embarrassing him, and let this go. Do you understand me?" He hung up, just like that. Case closed. I was left standing in my brand new kitchen, the sunny room suddenly feeling like a prison. My own father had just told me, in no uncertain terms, that a felony had been committed in my name and that I was expected to be silent about it. To protect my brother, to keep the peace, because that was my role. It had always been my role. Ryan was the golden boy, the charming prodigy who could do no wrong. I was the steady, reliable background character. He got bailed out. I got the bill, literal or metaphorical. It had been that way for 30 years. Every time he crashed a car, failed a class, or got into trouble, my parents would swoop in, write a check, and smooth things over. Their love for him was a blinding sun. Their love for me felt like a contractual obligation. I had spent my entire life trying to be perfect enough to earn the kind of unconditional approval they gave him for simply breathing. And in that moment, I realized with sickening clarity that it was a fool's errand. Their love wasn't something to be earned. It was a resource they allocated, and my account was empty. This was different, though. This wasn't a speeding ticket or a broken window. This was my name, my credit, my future. This was a line he had crossed that I didn't even know existed. The cognitive dissonance was crushing. How could my charming, lovable younger brother be a felon? How could my powerful, respectable father be his accomplice? How could the family I loved be the source of my own destruction? I went to my home office and pulled my credit report, and there it was. A new commercial loan for $250,000 issued 3 months ago. My credit score, which I had painstakingly built to near perfection, had a new, ugly stain on it. $250,000. My stomach churned. I started digging deeper, a cold, methodical fury taking over. I went back through years of old credit reports I had saved, and I found them. Little things I had dismissed at the time as errors or junk mail. A credit card from a department store I'd never been to, opened and closed 6 years ago. A small personal loan from a payday lender, taken out and paid off over a few months during his last year of college. Each one was a small, secret betrayal, a test run. He had been practicing this for years, and our parents had been his silent accomplices, quietly paying off the debts and erasing the evidence before I ever got wise. They weren't just enabling him, they were training him. The whole time I could hear their voices in my head. Don't make a scene, you're overreacting, it's for the good of the family. It was the mantra of my childhood, the sedative they used to keep the system running smoothly. But the sedative was wearing off. Chloe came into the office and saw the papers spread across my desk, saw the look on my face. She knelt beside my chair and took my hand. "Talk to me, Mark." The phone call with my father. The years of feeling like the family janitor, always cleaning up Ryan's messes. When I finished, she didn't look angry. She looked determined. "Okay," she said, her voice firm. "So this isn't a misunderstanding. It's a conspiracy, and we are not letting this go." Her strength was the only thing holding me together. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling of my new bedroom, a room that now felt tainted by the loan that had supposedly helped pay for it. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was scared. I was about to go to war with my entire family, a family with immense resources and a complete lack of moral scruples. They had left me with no choice. They had pushed me into a corner, assuming I would just curl up and accept my fate. But they had miscalculated. They thought I was just the responsible one. They had forgotten that the responsible ones are the ones who keep the receipts. And my private, meticulous financial crime investigation was just getting started. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, go ahead and give it a like. It really helps me out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. Thanks a bunch. The first rule of war is to know your enemy. My enemy wasn't just a reckless brother and enabling parents. It was a deeply entrenched family system built on secrets and denial. To fight them, I couldn't be the emotional wounded son. I had to become a cold, calculating strategist. I had to use their own language, the language of leverage and consequence. My first move was to play the part they'd cast me in. I called my father back the next day. "And you're right," I said, my voice thick with feigned resignation. "I'm sorry, I overreacted. I'll call Ryan and smooth things over." The relief in his voice was palpable. Good, that's my boy. See? It's better for everyone this way." He thought he had won. He thought the system had held. This was exactly what I wanted. An enemy who underestimates you is an enemy who gets sloppy. Next, I hired a private investigator. A discreet, expensive professional who specialized in financial fraud. I didn't tell him it was my brother. I just gave him Ryan's name and the loan details, and told him to find out exactly where every single dollar had gone. I needed to know if there even was a startup, or if this was all just a massive, elaborate grift. While he worked, I focused on the forgery itself. The loan documents were signed digitally. I knew my father's firm used a high-end, secure e-signature platform. I also knew that these platforms log everything: the IP address of the computer used for the signature, the exact time, the email address the link was sent to. The digital fingerprints were all over it. I called the bank that issued the loan, posing as a concerned brother checking on a clerical detail. I was polite, non-threatening. I managed to get the name of the loan officer who handled the file. Then Chloe, who works in marketing and has a gift for social engineering, went to work. She found the loan officer on social media, figured out his interests, and crafted a story. She called him, pretending to be from a financial tech publication, wanting to do a feature on their bank's innovative digital loan process for startups. It was a long shot, but his ego was bigger than his caution. He agreed to an off-the-record background interview. During their chat, Chloe casually asked, "And so, for a co-signed loan like the Miller deal, does the system generate separate signature links for each party?" "Absolutely," he bragged. "For security. We sent one to Ryan Miller's email and the other to the co-signers. Let me see, mallen@millercorp.com. My blood turned to ice when Chloe told me. mallen@millercorp.com wasn't my email address. It was my father's old email address. An account that only he and his executive assistant had access to. The signature hadn't just been forged. It had been executed from inside my father's own office. This wasn't a case of my father covering for my brother. He was an active, hands-on participant in the fraud itself. The cognitive dissonance I'd been feeling wasn't a sickness, it was a rational response to an insane reality. The man who was supposed to be my protector was my primary predator. 3 days later, the private investigator's report landed in my inbox. It was worse than I could have imagined. There was no startup, no business plan, no investors. The $250,000 had been funneled directly from the loan account into Ryan's personal account. From there, it had been spent on a down payment for a sprawling $1 million house in a gated community, a brand new Audi for his wife, a Rolex watch, and a first-class trip to Hawaii. He hadn't just stolen my signature. He had stolen $250,000 to cosplay as a successful entrepreneur. I now had a complete, undeniable dossier of their crimes: the forgery, the fraud, the conspiracy. I could go to the police. I could press federal charges. But a public, messy trial would take years and destroy what little was left of my mother's peace of mind. And more importantly, it wouldn't give me what I really wanted. It wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. And justice, in this case, meant forcing them to look at what they had done, without excuses or denial. It meant a reckoning. My reckoning. I sent a single formal email to my parents and my brother. The subject line was, "Final Resolution Meeting." The body of the email simply listed a time and a place: my lawyer's office, the following Tuesday at 10 a.m. I told them their attendance was not optional. They arrived together, a united front of arrogance. Ryan looked annoyed, like I was wasting his valuable time. My father looked powerful and impatient, ready to swat me down. They walked into the conference room, expecting to intimidate me into submission one last time. They found me sitting at the head of a long, polished table. In front of me were 3 neat stacks of paper. Chloe was by my side, a silent, supportive presence. My lawyer stood by the window. "Thank you for coming," I said, my voice as calm and steady as a frozen lake. "I won't take up much of your time. This isn't a negotiation. This is a presentation of terms." I walked him through it, page by page. The credit reports, the bank statements, the sworn affidavit from the private investigator, the logs from the e-signature platform, showing the exact time and IP address of the forgery, traced directly back to my father's office building. I laid out their crime in excruciating, undeniable detail. My father's face went from crimson to a pale ashen gray. Ryan just stared at the table, his charming smile finally gone, replaced by the slack-jawed look of a cornered animal. So, I concluded, pushing the final document across the table. Here are my terms. 1. You will wire the full outstanding balance of the $250,000 loan back to the bank by the end of this week. I don't care how you get it. Sell the car, sell the watch, sell your new house. It will be paid. I pushed a second document forward. 2. Ryan, you will sign this legally binding confession detailing the forgery and the fraudulent use of funds. It will be held in trust by my attorney. It is my insurance policy. Then I looked directly at my father. And 3, you both will sign this. It's a formal agreement stating that you will have no further contact with me or my wife, and will make no attempt to interfere in our personal or financial lives, ever again. You will sever all ties. In effect, you will consider me disowned. My father finally found his voice. It was a hoarse whisper. And if you don't, I said, picking up my phone, then I make one phone call, not to the police, to the head of the fraud division at the bank. I will hand them this entire file. Once they have proof of felony bank fraud, they will be legally obligated to pursue federal charges against you, both to recoup their losses and protect their shareholders. It will be completely out of my hands. Your choice. A quiet, private financial ruin or a very loud public and criminal one. Checkmate. I had used their own love of money and fear of public shame as the bars of their cage. They signed. Every single page. There was no argument, no blustering. Just the quiet scratch of a pen, the sound of a dynasty of lies finally coming to an end. They walked out of that office without a word. I haven't seen or spoken to them since. Ryan was forced to sell his new life, piece by piece, to pay back the loan. He and his wife are living in a small rental now, the life he tried to steal turning to ash in his hands. Chloe and I are still in our Craftsman home. It's quieter now, but it's a peaceful quiet. We filled it with our own memories, our own traditions. We formed our own family built on a foundation of trust and respect. The hole my biological family left behind has been filled with something much stronger. I learned that forming a boundary isn't an act of aggression, it's an act of self-preservation. They thought my greatest weakness was my sentimentality. They were wrong. My greatest strength was finally realizing who was worth it.